I'd like to welcome into our Google Hangout, our Fox 11 fan chat, Cris Abrego. Did I get that out of Abrego?
Yeah, Abrego, that's it. Absolutely right.
This dude's resume. Oh my! I mean, I'm just gonna tell you some of the craziest moments I've watched on TV.
Yeah. It was a wild time in my career for sure.
Man, flavor of love. I'm not even gonna.
Where do you want to start?
Oh my!
God.
But wow. So, but you're here because you're talking about a new reality show that actually I was just listening in on your conversation with Steve. That could be the closest thing to reality that you've done in reality.
No doubt. This is a real, authentic look. You know, someone using the word sometimes social experiment in what we're doing. Does someone have to go?
I like social experiments. I'm kind of a psychology fan, hobbyist, if you will.
It's
so
very much that.
Well, and what is it? So it's called.
It's called "Does Someone Have to Go?" And the idea, I can tell you that just the conceit for the whole project is, in trying to get into the workspace, we figured out what's the most relatable thing we could find that everyone talks about who's ever had a job.
Right.
And that one thing that we kept coming around to 100% was everybody thinks they know better than the boss. Period.
Right.
Even my own employees, I assure you, they feel like they know better how to run the company than I do.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's the idea behind this. It's really not about the company's success or it's with the personnel issues. The owners give the power to the employees for 48 hours. And whatever conclusions they come up to, whether it's promoting somebody, giving somebody a paid increase or decrease, and ultimately, if it means firing somebody, and whoever they decide to fire, as long as they come to a consensus, the boss honors it. So it gets wild. It gets wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So if you've been the jerk on the job for years, you don't want this guy's show coming to your job because
no, that's a good point.
That could be a problem.
They honestly go after that person every time.
But I would imagine that in some cases, you actually end up with a situation where maybe the boss wasn't that hands-on, and the employees are going to take over and actually maybe do some things that the boss maybe should have done.
You know what?
Because they're there in the trenches.
That's exactly what it is. And when you watch this series, you'll see that actually happen. And when the boss comes back, it's wild because they come in and you hear the boss go, "I did not know that. I did not know that was happening here." And they're like, "Well, it is, and it was, and here's what we want to do about it." And the boss is it really it's helpful.
Okay. Well, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and throw your hands up. Trev, you were first, so go on ahead.
Well, just going to be a comment. I think that's going to be you kind of, because in the office, in any office or any work environment, you've always got the suck-ups, haven't you, that just suck up to the boss all the time and they're completely different to other people. So it's going to be them that are going to get booted out straight away, isn't it? That's
it explores all those types in the office. The suck-ups, the slacker, the overachiever, the lazy one, the person who's calling in sick all the time. It really goes after all those people in putting them on the spot and shedding some light on them.
I'm an overachiever, so I'd be very afraid.
You'll be gone.
Larissa, go ahead.
Hi, Chris. Good. How are you? I really love everything you've done.
Thank you.
Before I ask you about how hilarious this really is going to be, I mean, it sounds like really just another one of your famous setups. I want to know what goes into Flavor of Love. Bret Michaels, I Love New York. What gets you thinking about how these ideas could really be hits and popping for us to watch?
Well, it's a great question, and I think that's the biggest thing, honestly, that I think, if I had to say one of the things why I've had success, is I've been able to spot some interesting characters and really anything like you would see on a scripted show. So I did a show called This Real Life, and I met Flav on there. And after spending 3 weeks with him, I was like, oh my God, this guy's his own TV show. and I really got to know him on a personal level. So it was like this guy is a character. He could be he's like a real life cartoon. And people used to give us a ton of slack for the way we would dress Flav, I never bought that guy one piece of clothing. Like that's all that's his entire wardrobe. And
wow.
He was real, and we just told his story. He fell in love with Brigitte Nielsen, and then with Strange Love, and then when that broke up for reals, I created Flavor of Love, and obviously Bret became the counterpoint to that, and it was a lot of fun. It was good times.
Well, to share my own little Flavor Flav anecdote, in Burbank, actually it was North Hollywood.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine was driving down the street, and one day he sees this dude in the middle of the street in like the turn lane riding one of those super high bicycles. Takes a picture of it. It was Flavor Flav.
I'm not surprised.
Riding right down the middle of the street. And it was the oddest thing, most non sequitur thing. Kempton, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, and for this new show, how did you go about to cast the company, the boss, and the employees? Like, apparently, I assume you must have gone through a lot of companies or applicants, or how did that go about?
Absolutely. Very, very different in casting this show because it wasn't like we were inviting people to come live on an island or come move into a mansion or do something for some huge cash prize. So it was really about us coming to them. First, we had to talk to the owners and the bosses, and then ultimately, once we laid it all out for them, what the show was going to be about, once they were willing to participate, then we had to go to each individual employee. The truth is, not every employee participated. If you look at this first episode, there's 17 people in there. That company actually has about 40 or 50 employees. Some didn't want to do it. Some didn't qualify to do it. So we kind of end up with the group that we end up with.
Hello, by the way. It's me, Shaka. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, fair.
Okay, now who did we miss? Who else has a question? Go ahead, Trev.
I read that you were in college or in university. You were a wrestler.
Correct.
What did you ever fancy getting into that as professionally? I mean.
No, well.
How did you fancy getting into that? That's
well, it wasn't. It was collegiate wrestling, not like Hulk Hogan or.
Oh, of course not. No. Proper wrestling.
Exactly, proper wrestling. Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I was fortunate enough to have success doing it in high school, so I got to university on a scholarship in doing that, and then finished out wrestling, which is a great sport.
Right.
Which brings me to my question to you. I was looking at your IMDb or your list of credits, and huge long list of credits that you've done for such a young man.
No, look at these bags, see?
No. I always like to ask how you get started in the industry and what brought you in, what made you interested.
Well, it's one, I love this business and I've been very lucky. But the truth is, I fell in love with it while in high school. I got an opportunity to do some television. But then I was really pursuing the news business.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so after I graduated from college, I worked at a local NBC affiliate in Palm Springs. And I was in live news for 2 years, and then I finally...
Were you in front of the camera?
No, behind. I was doing the sports, and then I was directing the live newscast, obviously local. But and then I had dreams of coming here to, actually, believe it or not, Fox was one place I wanted to do news. And ended up coming across a company called Buner Murray that will give me my first job, and they happened to be doing a show called The Real World.
The Real World? You mean Real World as in MTV?
MTV Real World, and that became
that was like the first really real reality show.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Yeah.
And then I did a show for them called Road Rules, if anyone remembers. But
yeah.
And then that's put me on my reality path.
Wow, so news really is, it's reality.
It's you know what?
Real.
It's how I learned to tell stories so fast. We would put these short packages together, and I'd go out in the field and how in real life and these real stories, and of course in being in Palm Springs there was like a meth lab blown up or car accidents, but
oh my gosh, I love Palm Springs and we hear those stories.
But we showed up, and I told stories, and that's what I'm still doing today, is telling stories.
And I guess that's the formula that works with these reality shows. Is our perception for some of these reality shows is that, and I'm sure maybe you've talked about this already, but some of it is it's non-scripted reality. So what's the scripted part of it?
I think people get confused. At least I can only obviously speak for myself, but I think the majority of the producers that I do know too, not that I would speak for them, but it's never scripted. It's not like we actually hand out a script. I think what people mean when it's like partially scripted means, hey, we want you guys to show up at this water park and go down the big slide. What happens after that is really what happens. But we took them to the park. We made them go up there where they're afraid of heights, and then we told them you have to come down it. So that part that's an example maybe of saying what might be scripted.
Right.
But whether they're freaked out or they love it, that really happens.
Did I miss anyone's question?
Can I ask another one?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, to me, reality TV is one of the biggest money-making thing. It doesn't cost a lot. It's not like shooting a 24. It make a lot of money, and I read that your company, 51 Minds, was sold like for over $200 million a few years
Wow.
ago. How, like, did you imagine that when you started in this business?
You know
What
what?
was that like for you?
To the first part of that question, no. Back when I was working in reality TV, of like being something that could be syndicated or ton of international business, and so no one had any idea. But I was very fortunate on the second part of your question, to build such a company, such a portfolio that a large conglomerate called Endemol came and purchased the company for $200 million.
Well, I'm really proud of you. I'm always a champion of diversity, and I always appreciate when I see people of color and minorities, which were not minorities, as you know,
growing
in this country.
I'm right here from Southern California.
Exactly.
Parents are Mexican. Started in this business.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, we look forward to seeing more. Of course, the show, Does Someone Have to Go, airs here on Fox.
Yep, Thursdays.
Tonight,
9 o'clock.
Tonight at 9 o'clock. We'll be checking it out. I know I'm already looking around to see which of my employees I will be putting to go. But anyway, no, I love everyone here. Trust me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure, likewise, too.
Can we take a photo with you
Of
before you
course.
go? Okay,
What
let
do
me
I do?
take my
What do I
camera
look
out.
at?
Now, this is the camera,
All right.
and I will take the photo. You ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.